Hey everyone, and a very warm welcome to you. So glad you could join me. Today, we're going to dive into what is honestly one of the most personal and powerful passages in the entire Quran.
You know that feeling, right? That crushing feeling when you're staring up at a huge task, a mountain you're supposed to climb, and this wave of anxiety just hits you. You think to yourself, there's no way. How can I possibly do this? It's something we all go through.
Okay, so now imagine this. Your mission is to go confront the most powerful, most terrifying tyrant on the planet. I mean, that was literally the Prophet Moses' mission. But here's the amazing part. Before God even gets into the details, he pauses. It's like he opens up Moses' personal file, not to critique him, but to ground him, to stabilize him. Let's really get into this.
So God kicks things off with what you can only call a divine pep talk. It's incredible. He doesn't start with, here's the plan, or do this. No, he starts with history. His history. He starts with pure reassurance. And this is where it begins, with this powerful line from Surah Ta-Ha, spoken directly to Moses.
And the translation, it's just so direct, isn't it? So comforting. It's basically God saying, hey, this isn't the first time we've been through something tough together.
Okay, let's break this down because the way it's said in Arabic is so cool. It starts with the word laqad, which is like a stamp of absolute certainty. There's zero doubt. It's a direct antidote to that anxiety we were just talking about. God is saying, listen, remember? We've got a history. This isn't some gamble. And isn't that so true for us? A lot of our anxiety about what's coming next is just because we forget how we were helped in the past.
So, where does this trip down memory lane begin? You might think it's some big, heroic moment, but no. It's not in a palace, not on a battlefield. It's somewhere much quieter. It begins with his mother.
God takes Moses right back to the very beginning, to his mother.
And look at this. The focus is on her, on the divine inspiration she received. What an incredible honor that is.
And this just shows us something so powerful, doesn't it? The honor here is huge. God doesn't start with Pharaoh or the pyramids or any of that. He starts with a mother's courage. And get this, she wasn't a prophet, but she received wahi, a direct divine inspiration, a moment of guidance that kicked this whole thing off. The lesson for us? God's biggest plans, they often start small, in the quiet hearts of really brave people.
Okay, so next, God does something amazing. He takes an entire, frankly terrifying childhood and condenses it into a single sentence. And what looks like total chaos to us, well, he reveals it was all part of a perfectly controlled plan. I mean, just think about the absurdity of these steps. A baby, in a chest, thrown into a river, only to be picked up and raised by the one guy who wants all baby boys dead. It's a complete nightmare scenario. But that's not how God tells the story. Right in the middle of this terrifying story, God drops this absolute bombshell of a phrase. This wasn't luck. This wasn't chance. God is saying, I put a special love on you, a kind of divinely inspired charm. It meant that everyone, even his enemies, just felt this pull to protect him, to care for him, and they didn't even know why. And then comes the clincher, under my eye. And this isn't just some nice poetry, you know? It means active, hands-on, moment-by-moment divine supervision. Think about it. Even living in the palace of the enemy, Moses was never, ever out of God's sight. He was being raised under the personal care of the Almighty. It's mind-blowing. So the story then hits the fast-forward button, zooming through Moses' entire young adult life. And what we see is that every single trial, every mistake he made, every detour he took, it was all actually part of the curriculum, his divine training. This was his leadership boot camp. First, his sister's courage brings him back to his mom, giving him that crucial emotional anchor. Then, a huge mistake, an accidental killing, forces him into exile. But that exile wasn't a punishment, it was purification. All those years in Madian as a shepherd, that taught him patience, humility. It stripped away all that palace arrogance. Every stage was a test, it was a forging. Because real leadership, it's not just handed to you, it's built in the fire.
And then, after all of that, the reunion, the exile, the years of purification, this line just lands with such incredible weight. You see, he wasn't early, he wasn't late. His arrival at that mountain in that exact moment was perfectly, divinely on schedule.
And this whole history lesson, this entire rewind of his life,
It's all been building to this one moment. To what is, without a doubt, one of the most breathtakingly personal statements in the entire Quran.
Here it is, the climax of the entire conversation, the final exam of his divine curriculum.
Just pause on that for a second. Let it sink in. And I produced you for myself. I mean, what an unbelievable statement of purpose, of value, of belonging.
So what does this really mean? This is the bottom line. God is telling Moses, listen, nothing was random. Every second of fear you felt in that chest, every lonely year you spent in exile, every single delay, it was all part of the process, a divine manufacturing process. The message couldn't be clearer. You are not an accident. You are not late. You are not underqualified, because I personally crafted you specifically for this mission.
And this is where it all comes home for us, right? This whole passage is a masterclass in reframing our own hardships. That thing that looks like a devastating loss, maybe it's actually divine mentorship. That frustrating delay that's driving you crazy, maybe you're gaining wisdom you desperately need. That fear, that's your classroom for patience. And that feeling of being out of place, maybe that's the very path that's forging you into who you're meant to be.
So, I'm going to leave you with this to think about. We just saw how God spent decades crafting a leader through trial after trial. So, what if the biggest challenges you're facing right now, what if they aren't just random roadblocks? What if they are, in fact, your own divine curriculum, perfectly designed to craft you for your unique purpose?